New York lost one of its icons this week. Mayor Ed Koch died at the age of 88. Now let's take a look at his economic, how he did as mayor in New York City. He had 3 terms, right, Martin?
Yep.
It was from like late 70s to
77 to 89.
Right.
Yep.
How would you characterize those 12 years in New York City?
Basically recovery. He was a hell of an improvement on his predecessors. He got into the business, New York politics, because he discovered that Mayor Lindsay was trying to put a 3,000 person housing project in the middle of Forest Hills, Queens, which is a pretty nice neighborhood. Right. And so Koch decided that the outer boroughs have rights too, which was a new theory in New York.
Right, right. You mentioned that his 12 years was characterized by a fair amount of fiscal austerity, which is not something you normally think of when you look at mayors of New York City.
Well, that's right. I mean, he basically was much more austere than his predecessors had been. He still expanded government, but less so, and he balanced the budget in 81, and then he balanced it again in the late 80s.
So, of course, he was coming. You said recovery. I mean, the late 70s was just awful. Remember,
financial
this is New York
crisis
City.
of 75.
Ford to New York dropped dead.
Yep.
That happened in the middle 75. You basically had a complete restructuring under Felix Rohatyn.
Yep.
And then, so of course, the 80s though was the rebound in the markets again.
Yes, he was damn lucky twice.
Yeah.
Firstly, he had the high inflation of the late 70s decimated the value of New York's outstanding bonds.
Right.
And so suddenly debt service
was a lot
less.
Goes a long way when you're
Absolutely. 10% inflation sorts
right.
out your debts pretty quickly, as we may discover in the next few years.
So you wish. But so you keep predicting.
So I keep predicting, yes.
And then, of course, you had the recovery. New York City went from its worst period, you know, the graffiti in the streets, the high crime rate, all that kind of stuff. You started to see that start to recede.
Well, that's right, because the other
really took
that's the other thing. The finance business took off after 82.
Right.
And so the revenues started rolling in from that. That made it a lot easier for him. He ran as a law and order mayor, but crime actually increased. He didn't have the smart idea Giuliani did of going after people who like graffiti.
Right, right.
So therefore, he didn't solve all New York's problems, but he was a hell of a good presenter. Bloody enjoyable guy to watch on TV.
He was a quintessential New Yorker, wasn't he?
He was a quintessential New Yorker, and he certainly reversed the downturn that had gone on for the previous 30, 40 years in New York, and he gave the outer boroughs their rights, and that I thought was very important.
Okay, thank you, Martin. We'll look forward to your piece, and we'll be back with more Breaking Views next week.